Poetry for me was a healing tool, and it helped me get up off the hotel room floor and find myself again, peel back the layers of who I really was, and have a redemption story. We all have heartbreak, and we all have the power to heal. What if heartbreak isn't just something to survive, but something that teaches us how to actually live? In writing the poems in my book, I Am Maria, I set out to go within, to understand myself beyond the roles I've played and the losses I've carried. On this tour, I opened that journey up to conversation and learned even more. I sat down with people I love and admire, my friends, my siblings, my teachers, those who've helped me reflect, forgive, and imagine a more compassionate way forward. Together, we talked about finding your voice, making peace with your past, and discovering the freedom that comes with healing. May these moments invite you to come home to yourself and embrace the fullness of who you have always been.
Believe it or not, we have incredibly close friends in common, but we had never met. So I was very excited to do this. I still don't know how the hell I got picked to do this. Wait, I called our friend, John.
Yes.
We were just, and I said, is there another Anna Navarro she could possibly be mistaking me
She's
for?
like, why? Why me? I don't know, why me? And I thought you would understand the journey. You would be interested in the journey. You've had your own incredible journey, and I have great respect for you. So I thought you'd be the perfect person because you were just telling me about your complicated journey. So I'm like, well, one complicated journey to another, perfect, right? But I said, she was like, did everybody freak out at the book company when you said you wanted to do a poetry book? And I said, yes. And the publisher said, you know, poetry books don't sell. I said, it's okay, I don't care. And they're like, yeah, you do. I said, no, I don't. And, but this is a book of reflections, thoughts, and poems. It's not one thing. It's a multitude of things, I said, like me, and probably like every single person in here. I grew up thinking you had to be one thing, and I kind of bristled with that because I didn't feel like I could be one thing.
And what was the one thing you grew up thinking you had to be?
Well, I thought I was going to be a journalist, and I thought that that would carry me all the way through, and I would just be a journalist for my whole life. And I think that we don't talk enough about how we evolve and how perhaps we might be in one career for a certain amount of time, and then we might jump into something else, or how we might be a mom for a while, and then we might be a wife for a while, and then we might be single living with dogs for a while, and you know, that you can end up on a very unexpected journey. And so as I've grown, as I evolved from a journalist to a first lady, to an entrepreneur, to an advocate, to an activist, to a poet, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I'm moving through all the different facets of my life, and I want to write about that, and I want to write it some in a reflection, which is an introduction and epilogue. And some of it I want to put to poetry because poetry for me was a healing tool. And it helped me get up off the hotel room floor and find myself again, peel back the layers of who I really was, and have a redemption story, a triumphant story.
But how did that happen? And I guess it doesn't have to be poetry, right? Different people go through different journeys,
Sure.
and that knock you to your knees and to the floor of a hotel room, and somehow you have to figure out how to get up. And for you, the vehicle, one of the vehicles, was poetry. What was the aha moment? What was the spark for that?
Well, it was a lot of things. I tried a lot of different things. I went, I went to therapy. I went to psychics. I went to shamans. I did plant medicine. I went on retreats. I did all kinds of things, trying to understand how I ended up where I ended up, how I could pull myself back together again and actually be better than I was before. I had had a very external journey. I had had a lot of external accomplishments. I had been told that that was the way to live your life, and I think many of us are raised with that message. And so I wanted to take my life and build it up from the inside out. And I had always been a writer. I've written other books. I wrote as a journalist, but it's different when you write as a journalist. You're writing this is who, what, why, where, when. This is the story. And I had been writing like that for many years. When I became First Lady, I started writing speeches. I started writing advocacy things, and I wrote gratitude journals. But when I learned meditation, which is why I wanted to start all these conversations with meditation, when I learned how to sit in quiet, what came up for me was challenging. And I didn't know how to make sense of it, and so I started writing. And I wanted to write without any worry that it would have to make sense, that it had to rhyme, that it had to be a sonnet, that I could just let out whatever was coming up. And I think I discovered, I know I discovered a voice that I was unfamiliar with, a voice that was different than the voice I had been using externally in my work, that was gentler, that was kinder, that was shyer, that was more, that was softer, that was hurt, that was lonely, that was scared, and I let her rip. And I wouldn't say it was pretty all the time.
I haven't found that shy, quiet voice yet.
But you haven't done meditation. You were like, what are we doing, meditation? Oh, no.
But do you think, because the book is such a journey, because it's you are revealing Maria to Maria, right?
Bingo.
And you're sharing, you're taking us along with it, but do you think you would have been able to reveal yourself to yourself had you not hit such a rock
Probably
bottom?
not. Probably not. And that's why I actually, in a way, want to celebrate my whole journey. I don't want to hide behind it. I'm not ashamed of it in any way. I think so many of us walk through our lives with shame, with embarrassment, feeling humiliated about one thing or the other. And I didn't want to walk through my life like that. I wanted my children, I have 2 daughters, I have 2 sons. I wanted them to see me rise. I wanted them to see me take control of my life. I wanted them, because I figured, I have 4 kids and I hope they all end up happily married or nothing bad happens to them, but that's not going to be the case. And I wanted them to see someone who divorced well. Mm-hmm. I wanted them to see somebody who could navigate their life and pick themselves back up, who would try things, who would be open and honest about the pain and the humiliation, the embarrassment, and also the strength that I was finding within myself to bring myself forward. I particularly wanted my daughters to see that.